I wish that were the case. I really wish it was blatant ignorance. I
Hmm.
think it's more to it than that. I think it's more greed and
Hmm.
it's more selfishness and it's like the developer and I had this that I work with all the time. We had this conversation last night. Um, Even it goes up to politics. It goes up to the boards. Like
Hmm.
I say, man, this was just a foolish decision. They don't know what they're doing, and he's like, it's more to it than that. They know
Hmm.
what they're doing. They have a selfish political agenda that they'll make the dumb excuses just to get what they want. So that logic, you put the state makes you go through all this schooling. You have to pass all these tests. You have to wait all these years. Then you have to take another test, and you have to get all these experience, and then you do all the things on these applications that they want you to do, and you do them, and it's beautiful and it's perfect, and you saved all this cost, and you go to present it, and your presentation makes so much sense. But that politician has an agenda. No, I don't want that.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Infrastructure Network. My name is Chad Smeltzer. I'm your host. Today's guest is Josh Burnett, who's with RDS. Thanks for joining me, Josh.
Nice to be here.
Josh, man, you and I have spent some time together last week or the week before, I forget.
Yep.
We had some really engaging conversation about the design engineering world of what you do and, where you've been throughout your life and your career. And I really, it hit me. I was like, man, I need to get you on a podcast and have these conversations. But before we kind of kick it off and get started, tell me a little bit about where you went to college and where you, was your family involved in engineering? Where did you kind of start?
Yeah, so I grew up in a little rural town in Tennessee on a farm. So I grew up working hard all the time. Work's just in my blood. My grandfather was a farmer. I spent a lot of time with him. He was pretty rough on me. He was a drill instructor in the Marine Corps, so it was all business all the time. And did well in school, and I liked to draw as a kid. And my dad picked up on it when I was 10. He said, "Boy, you'd make a pretty good engineer one day." And I didn't know what that was, but ever since, when at 10 years old, most people want to play football or baseball, be pro athletes. I wanted to be an engineer. Didn't know what it was. That's just what I wanted to
That's pretty
do.
cool.
I also love Mississippi State. So in 1998, that was the first football game I ever saw. It was the SEC championship. We ain't been to one since. We haven't been to one since then. So it's been downhill with Mississippi State ever then. But fortunately, Mississippi State had a good football team. Had a good engineering program, not a good football team, and so it just worked out. They have a very reputable engineering school, and I wanted to go there, so I didn't apply to any other place, um, and that's where I went. And one of the one of my mentors early on, I was doing construction in high school during the summers. He was a civil engineer. He went to Mississippi State, so kind of all the stars aligned, and that's where we went.
That's really cool, man. Wow. So, and then honestly, Dennis Truex, who is on his podcast on the 21st Century Engineer, and you were one of the students. I didn't know that until we met.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yep, yep, absolutely. Yeah, we got to run into him a few times. And none of my family are engineers. I don't come from an engineering background.
Okay.
All my family are bankers. And so the dinner talk around the at dinner time was always bank, 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 bank. And I said, I will never, ever, ever work in the bank. So I'm the black sheep of the family with the engineering route.
It happens. No worries. So what happened when you got out of college? What did you start? Like
Yeah,
what did your career look like to you? Did you like college? Did you like learning engineering then once you actually got into it, like more on the academia side?
yeah. School was hard. I finished better than I started. I kind of when I started, it was some humbling times those first few years, but I finished very well. I enjoyed Mississippi State. I learned a lot. It's a pretty rough program, and a lot of challenging things that they put you through, but it paid off. But I was ready to get out. I mean, I didn't want to do the master's or the PhD thing. But during this time, I went in 2008, graduated 2012, and that's coming off the heels of the recession. Not many people were hiring like they are today. I applied to countless firms, and no one would even respond. And I, it was also that's when President Obama was in, and he would allow, when I came out of school, he would allow you to stay under your mom and dad's insurance. I didn't want that. I wanted to be away. I wanted to work. I wanted to start my own thing. So I took the first job that I could. It was designing steel transmission lines. When I was in school, I thought I wanted to be geotech, but the geotech firms weren't hiring at the time, and the firm that I was interning at during the summers couldn't take me on. A little upset about that, so I just took the first job I could to start making some money. Um, and there was different types of structures that they were designing. It would be just a single pole or H frames or Y frames, and typically you didn't do the Y frames or the H frames until you're like 8 years in. I was doing them in 8 months, and it was they stuck me in a cube. I was doing text files all day. I was like, this is not my cup of tea. Um, So then I went. Fortunately, there was another opportunity at the firm I interned at. I went there after about a year of working at the other place. I stayed there for 4.5 years, and it was a great opportunity because they weren't hiring many young engineers. I got in because they knew me, and there was a lot of older engineers that had over 30 or 40 years of experience, and so they didn't want to do the hard work anymore. So they just dumped all their knowledge onto me, and I
Mm.
didn't have anybody to compete with. So I was learning heck grass and hydrology, hydraulics, sewer, water, all kind of different things, and then I was just soaking it in. Um, and there were some times that it was slow just because we were coming off the heels of the recession. Still, that
Yeah.
lasted for a while. Um, and at the end of it, right before I took my PE, a contractor came to me. You're in the engineering world for 4 years doing design. It takes a while before you get paid. And there's a lot of people above you. And I was ready to make some money. I was ready to provide for my family. My goal in life was to have my wife wants to stay home. We want to raise kids. That's my priority. That's my end goal. So it's to have a good family and where it's stable and my wife's happy. That's everything else is willing to be sacrificed for that goal. Nothing's going to get in that way.
Yeah.
Uh, so I took the money, and it was fine. It was fun. I always thought, being an engineer, that the contractors had it harder, but to me, it was easy. It's like putting Legos together. All I got to do is do whatever this person tells me to do, and we'll be just fine. Stay on schedule, stay on budget, make some money, go home. And in that first year, I doubled my salary, but it wasn't rewarding to me in the sense that God gave me a mind to design um, from the start and use my creativity. And all I was really doing was putting budgets together and having somebody else build it. So I got out of that, went back to another engineering firm, became a partner over there, and we were doing land development. And that's just a different type of engineering, man. It's in the private sector. It's a dog eat dog world. And now we're getting into 2018 to 2022 when Trump's the president now, and it's just blow and go. How fast can you shell them out? The plans, how fast can you do them? Can you hit this deadlines? Can you get my approval? And land development's hard. It's not just drainage. It's not just sewer. The engineering part becomes easy. It's getting the entitlements. It's learning how to navigate the politics. It's getting this permit and keeping things on track. Um, and not everybody can do it. That's why there's not that many land development engineers. And it turned into the typical toxic culture um, type engineering firm, and where
Wait,
Sundays become
let's
a
hold
graveyard.
on. Let's hold on there 1 second. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Now, did you experience any toxic culture prior to going to land development?
No,
Okay, so you
I did
you
not.
okay. I was just
Yeah,
curious.
the other engineering firm that I worked at, it was great. I actually almost teared up leaving. I just
Okay.
I had to thought I had to take the money. It was a great place to work. Still is, and I still know those guys, and they're great to work with.
Yeah. So
Uh,
then you went into land development and you started to do a lot of the work there. And then you mentioned just now just toxic culture and stuff like that. So I guess I just want to jump in there and kind of redirect and understand exactly where this toxic culture kind of fit in your mind.
Man, I don't know. I don't know how it started. and I got to be careful. I don't want to throw anybody on the bus, but
We're not saying any
it
names.
was okay. Yeah, yeah. It was the way I describe it. I love doing what I do. I'm made to do this, but
Yeah.
Sundays going to work on a Monday became a dread.
Mm,
Like I do not want to get up in the morning to go do what I'm built to do.
that's not good.
I just want to go do something else. And during this time, we got good at it. I mean, we had a great reputation, but internally, it was not functioning right. And started off fine. It just the first 2 years were great, but man, there was a lot of turnover,
Mm.
and it eventually caught up to me, and you couldn't do it anymore. It just
Can
wasn't
you
worth it.
can you explain to me a little bit more of the model? Because I'm learning as much as maybe everybody else's audience will learn too. What
Yep.
it like in land development, stick with the same kind of engineering, what that process looks like, especially when there's a lot of developments happening in certain areas and things like that. You're kind of mentioned running and gunning kind of thing. It's like it sounds like you're just overwhelmed with projects and work and developments that you need to get done. And it sounds like there's a top down kind of funnel from my experience. I'm learning more about this of just pushing projects to the juniors or seniors and just like start knocking out work. Like, can you describe a
Yeah.
little bit how it works?
Yeah. Typically, there's one person in the company who's out there going to get work. He's the point man who typically has the relationship with the developer. Okay.
Yeah.
He's who he calls. Now, this type of person, whoever the point man is, he's got to be able to communicate effectively to the executor.
Mm-hmm.
The executor is the second guy. Typically, that was me. So he's responsible for making sure that he understood correctly what we're trying to do and communicate it to the rest of the guys. This is what you are doing this week. This is how fast you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay if you're doing one project at a time. And it's okay if everyone is up to speed and at the same level. But you got to think people are on different levels. You have to delegate different tasks that they can handle and that so that they're not overwhelmed. So at this executor type person, the middleman, he doesn't want to overwhelm these guys. He doesn't want to challenge them. He wants them to be able to enjoy their family. So I would take a lot of the burden, right?
Mm.
And that's just typically how it is. And so it's okay if you're doing one project at a time. If you can finish, you have a sense of accomplishment, you go to the next one. But you get in this cycle if you got too much work where I'm trying to get this job graded. I'm trying to get a environmental permit on this one. I'm trying to get a sewer permit on this one. I've got comments coming back from this one. This guy's grabbing down my neck. I got to go to planning commission tonight. How is this politics going to work today? And it's like, how do you do all this while you have a lump sum proposal budget? So now it's a race to the clock. So every hour that I spend on this takes away from my profit. I'm not being able to get the developer every ounce of meat out of this project like I really could. And then you're back to fixing all this. So it's like a chaotic nightmare in your head that you're trying to stay on task, not miss this, not make anybody mad, and do a great product at the end of the
So
day. So
how are you managing all these tasks through different tools, like writing it down, Excel spreadsheets, pivot tables? Like, how are you managing all that?
yeah, we would have like once a week meetings where all the projects would be listed out, and like every project has a list of tasks that has to be completed. You have to kind of anticipate schedule, and it would be fine if you stuck to it.
Mm,
But then there's that people pleasing aspect comes in where somebody I got to have this right now,
mm.
and he it's folded into the mix, and there's just another level of something that you have to add, figure out.
So whether
Maybe there's probably people out there that do it better than I. But we had a lot of work, man, and we had the reputation, and we were getting it done. We really were. At one
yeah,
time, I would say there was 9 guys there at a certain time. Two of us did 50% of it. We were just shelling. I mean, and he's working with me today. So
wow.
we had that initiative, that ambition, and that drive to be able to do it right and do it fast. And so,
Where do you think that experience and knowledge came from for you? Like
experience and knowledge.
besides college, Do you think it was just from an early state of like being exposed to it with a mentor? Like, you're talking about running and gunning and like getting these projects done and out the door. And you mentioned to me some savings that you've done on some of these projects, and I was like, holy crap! Like, probably good to
Yeah.
talk about that. But how did you learn that? Because I feel like, is that just from the first place you went to?
Uh, I would say some people. I just have an internal drive. I think that's just God given. I'm just trying to be humble about it.
Yeah.
I have a drive to be able to do it that I can't explain. I'm my own worst enemy. I'll take the responsibility, um, and just be able to get it done. I want it done, and I want it done right, and I can't control it. It's the way I've always been.
Okay. So there, would you say there's different levels of engineers then? Obviously, there's different levels of athletes, so I would assume the same thing.
Absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely. I've learned over either you got it or you don't.
Oh, really? It's
It's
not that big of a
it's
difference?
and people may disagree with me. They may see this. And, there's different aspects that you can learn, you can get really good at. But being able to, you think about all the things you got to do. You have to manage people. You have to be able to communicate. You have to have the technical knowledge to be able to do it. You have to have the work ethic, and all these different things. And
Hmm.
a lot of times, people will be really good at one or two of them, and to be able to do all of them, it's sometimes those are just talents and gifts that different people have. You know?
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. I would assume, just like any industry or any profession, there's levels. Different people have it. Sounds like you were blessed with that talent of engineering, and sounds like land development was the biggest success for you so far. I mean, from what I understand, tell me a little bit about the savings, which I thought was awesome. Some of these
Yeah,
projects we were talking about saving money, I was like, I'd hire you too.
yeah. Here's how we transitioned into that. So when I was working at this other engineering firm, we would our point of contact with developers would typically be the main developer's project manager. Some of them were good, and some of them were not. And you think about it, it's like these guys that are not so good at this, they're responsible for a lot of capital. They're responsible for really good decisions, and you watch them be lazy, and you watch them make bad calls, and you're just like,
Hmm.
how do you have a job? How does this guy leave you in this position today? It doesn't make sense to me. And I said it one day, and I was like, if a developer had one of us on his staff, we would pay for our salary in two jobs.
Hmm.
And the cost savings, if you don't necessarily rush me, and I'm not saying be slow. I'm not saying milk the job. I'm just saying let an engineer do what he needs to do all the way through and verify that this is going to work to get that optimal design. Man, you could do so much. You could do
Hmm.
so much where you're not your brain is not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not just full of trying to get something done, but it's open to be creative, like you're born to do. You can do so
Yeah.
much stuff. So that was my thought, and we got to a point at the other place where it was just toxic. It's all I have, and I'm out. I'm done. I'm going to start my own thing. And this is at the time where the Trump era is starting to come down. Everything's starting to get slow. Interest rates are going back up. And starting on companies at this time where everything gets slow is risky. So the developer that I'm working with is like, "Come over here. We'll get you started. It's too risky for you to go out on your own in this world. I got you." I said, okay. And my wife was all about it. She saw like the pressure just get off me,
Hmm.
and she was very happy. And uh, I told the guy that I was working with, I was like, we had a project that I had approved at the other place. So I was doing all their engineering when I got it. And typically, when the engineer gets a plan, it's an entitled plan. So that lot layout is already done, it's already gone through the appropriate boards. So to take it back and change it is a nightmare. No one wants to go back and do that.
Right.
So I told him, I said, man, if you would have put this detention pond down here, I would have saved you so much money. It took me so much effort to get this to work. He said, all right, test, go. I spent 2 weeks on it. Uh, my hour rate at the end was like $135 an hour. It's definitely gone up since then. So I spent, I don't know, 10 grand on it. I saved $500,000 on it in dirt and pipe. That was one job. Okay. So I've only been there 2 weeks, and I more than doubled my salary in cost savings.
That's awesome.
Okay, we get another job, and I'm starting doing cost analysis on it. I'm like, we're wasting money putting these lots on the other side of the ditch. Take them off. $500,000 right there. That's another 500. And then we had another job where it was already engineered, already improved, and we wanted to get the development back online. And we looked at it, redid the lot layout, worked with the topography, changed up some of the sewer, say $1.3 million. So these are the impacts that a civil engineer, if you give him the time and the ability to do what he's able to do, these are the impacts that he can make
Hmm.
on a project. And this, what this does, it's not about padding the developer's pocket. There's bad developers out there, mind you, and I know somebody like developers bad. There's good developers, and what he's going to do with this, those cost savings go back to the homeowner. So typically, what you do, so everyone thinks, well, the developer lost money. No, he didn't. He just jacked his lot costs up. So whatever that lot cost is. So let's say you increased the lot by $10,000. Multiply that times five. That's what goes into the house. So I just jacked your house up by $50,000 and I put that on an 8% interest rate. That's what's happening.
Wow.
We have the opportunity as civil engineers, and this is my end goal. This is why I get out of the bed in the morning. I want families to be able to be families. And the best place they can do that is at home, where they don't have to work overtime just to put food on the table. But I want to bring those lot costs down, um, so that people can rest at home and moms and dads can love on their kids. That's why we do what we do.
Have a better life, man. Provide to society and the communities and provide economic sustainability. That's what infrastructure does if it's done correctly. And that's, you're right on, man. That's the problem that we see is there's different quality of developers, engineers, and in general contractors, and it's just kind of a hodgepodge of different levels. But we tend to always go to this structured low bid or low this or like the money, like penny pinching stuff, which ends up in the quality issue of infrastructure that ends up falling apart, and then they got to pay more later, which is wild. What do you think about some of that stuff?
Yeah, that's what we've learned, and I've tried to convince people. Don't once you find a good engineer, don't try to don't try to get him cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. You spend 20,000 more dollars with an engineer versus somebody else, but he has a great reputation and he saves you $1.3 million. Do you not think that was a good investment? And then if you're an engineer, it's like, I did save you $1.3 million. What's that
Yeah.
worth? Is it
Yeah.
is it worth just 20%? No, $20,000? Is there a percentage base? I mean, I don't know. Those are the questions that we try to answer because everybody does have that low bid approach. And it's hard to sell that value when you're used to the status quo. This is the way we've always done it. This is what engineers are worth. And it's
Yeah.
hard. I mean, we've been trying to sell that elevator pitch, and it's been difficult.
What interests me the most, and what I've been hearing lately in the last several posts and things I've put out there, is like, look at a lawyer, right? And we know there's levels of lawyers. So like a high end lawyer who's $1,000 an hour, right? They're going to get you out of jail potentially. Let's say whatever. You're going to pay $1,000 an hour to get that done, right? You don't want to go to jail. Same thing would
Absolutely.
be something like this. You don't want a piece of infrastructure crumbling and falling down and killing people and stuff like that. Why wouldn't we look at that level of hourly rates, comparing it to a lawyer? And because you're taking on way more risk than a lawyer is technically. I mean, let's just look at it.
That's that thing right there is it's the liability. Like a contractor is going to make way more. And you think about a development pro forma, okay? Engineering and planning is the lowest item on the totem pole, but it controls everything.
Yeah.
Everything about that project typically is from planning and engineering when we're talking about land development. And like, I want the lowest number I want the cheapest guy to do this for me. It's like, come on, man.
And they
It,
wonder
it's
why. Wonder why. That's when it starts falling apart. The
mm-hmm.
projects start falling apart, and then it's a chain reaction. And by the time they're in construction, this thing's got so many R5s and so many complaints, and so many contractors just peed off because they didn't know this and didn't know that, and they bid on this thing. It's a mess.
Yeah, and my negotiation with people on the front end, I tell them like my proposal is going to look high compared to
Yeah.
other people, and I have to be very clear about what you get with this, and they still won't take it. They still will go up for the lower route, and
I have a
it's
question. I have a kind of a question. Do you think that project owners are just they just don't understand how it works, like the whole system?
man, I wish that were the case. I really wish it was blatant ignorance. I
Hmm.
think it's more to it than that. I think it's more greed and
Hmm.
it's more selfishness and it's like the developer and I had this that I work with all the time. We had this conversation last night. Um, Even it goes up to politics. It goes up to the boards. Like
Hmm.
I say, man, this was just a foolish decision. They don't know what they're doing. And he's like, it's more to it than that. They know
Hmm.
what they're doing. They have a selfish political agenda that they'll make the dumb excuses just to get what they want. So that logic, you put the state makes you go through all this schooling. You have to pass all these tests. You have to wait all these years. Then you have to take another test, and you have to get all these experience, and you do all the things on these applications that they want you to do, and you do them, and it's beautiful and it's perfect, and you saved all this cost, and you go to present it, and your presentation makes so much sense. But that politician has an agenda. No, I don't want that. I can't explain why I don't want it, but I just don't want it. And you just wasted your client's time. You just wasted his money, and you get nothing.
I couldn't imagine why. I have some ideas. I have some ideas, but maybe that's for another podcast, another day.
Yeah,
On the
that's completely
bureaucracy,
different.
bureaucracy and the politics behind development, which is in
Mhm.
communities, which
Good
is
thing.
approved by councils, which is approved. Like, where's that? Where's the fine line of influence and separation from people's pockets? How that looks. Yeah.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Influence and money. You nailed it.
Yeah,
You nailed
yeah. Someone's got to get some contributions to their next campaign. Typically, how it works. I'm just saying. But if you're getting that money, where's that project going to go to? Because I can tell you right now that people aren't just giving politicians money just to give them money. They're giving them money because they either love that person's agenda and what they stand for and stuff, or they have another purpose of like influence to get more project or more money and more land development, whatever it is. So we all know how the
it.
system works.
It,
Yeah.
it happens. And you're not. We draw a line in the sand. We're not. We're not going to cheat. Not going to
Yeah.
cheat.
Yeah. So I think that's an important aspect of the podcast today is really just understanding more about you, Josh, where you've come from, where you've learned so much, and then the different levels of engineers. I really didn't understand all of the aspects. I figured that you guys look, you get some details of a project scope, what you want to do, you plug it into a software, the thing punches it out. It's like boom, here's what you got to do, and it's like not that hard, but it's opened my eyes today.
Yeah, man. It's. I mean, we could go on and on and on. It's. You think about an engineer, and we are trained to think linearly, shortest path, straight lines, and then sometimes engineers we have this ego and like, well, we can do anything. So a developer may come to an engineer, and he wants a subdivision. Well, engineers should think straight lines, efficiency. How many lots can I get on this piece of property? So that's where you get the lot block grid type subdivision that everyone hates.
Hmm.
And um, sometimes planners they didn't go to engineering school. They don't know how to design a detention pond. They don't know the best route for sewer. They don't know about dirt grading. They don't know about erosion control or stream and wetland mitigation. And typically, they don't have to navigate the politics. But what we've learned is if you put the two together, where an engineer, he doesn't know how to balance commercial and residential development. He doesn't know how to put in view shed or amenities. He just wasn't taught that. Now he can learn. Now I've learned a lot from working with these planners already. But then you get that you take this. Engineers are used to putting a flat plan on a crazy geoid Earth. But if you work with it, if you work with the topography, you work with the trees and the streams, and you work with the planner, that's where you start generating these big cost savings.
Mm.
Um, Instead of just trashing the earth and ripping everything up, you work with it, and it pays you back.
Yeah,
That's what we've been doing. That's been our approach.
that sounds like the right approach for sure. I didn't know a planner didn't have to have an engineering degree.
Mm. And that's they make the better looking pictures. They really do. They have more of a creative mindset than an engineer does. Um, but we have to work together. We've been doing that, and it's been working out great.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I was just curious about that. I was like, wow, I thought they had to have a degree and some experience, and because there's a lot lying. I think you said it at the beginning of the podcast. Like the planning part is like the most important part.
It's the hardest part. Getting
It's
the
the hardest.
entitlements is the hardest part. So,
And so we have someone maybe doing that doesn't even have like the degree that we're talking about here. So I'm like, that's interesting perspective. Yeah. And then you connect them
yeah,
to an
and,
engineer like you're good.
yeah, and you think it's like, why haven't people been doing this? I'm sure there are. We found that not many people do this around here, but like when we explain it to people, the first time you explain it, it's very funny watching their eyes go, "Oh, that makes so much sense," and I still don't want to pay you for it, but it makes so much sense.
That's funny, man. That's funny. Well, I'd love to chat some more with you, Josh, but I think we'll do another episode because I really want to talk about the politics of this in another time because you've opened my eyes to another conversation about like some issues on one part of the state versus the other part of the state where there's just different ways of code and compliance and how that impacts the way development's done because it's not all the same on one side versus the other side because topography is different, right? And all those things, right? So you can't have politics involved where they're just making decisions and it's like it's this is the way it has to be for everybody kind of concept, which impacts a lot of the development. It sounds like so.
Oh
Actually, you know
man,
what? Maybe we will talk about that. Let's go. Let's just jump into it. We got like
you want
4 minutes.
to
Can we jump into it? Yeah,
all
yeah.
right,
Why not? Tell me about this thing.
all right. So we're talking about the environmental. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I won't get in trouble. So, so we do most of our engineering in Tennessee.
yeah,
And if you're familiar with the Tennessee flag, there's a circle with three stars in it. So that means the three different sections of Tennessee. So a long time ago, when they made the flag, it was quite apparent that we are different as you go from west to east. And so there's West Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and East Tennessee. West Tennessee is very flat. This is where all the good farmland is, close to the Mississippi River. Our I'm gonna call them water conveyances, or we call them around here ditches. That's what we call them. They're just muddy ditches. People don't come out to West Tennessee for vacation to go fishing. They go out to East Tennessee, where you got the mountains, you got the Smoky Mountains. That's where the hiking trails are, the state parks, and the beautiful trout streams.
yeah.
Middle Tennessee is more rocky. Down, it's not as rocky as East Tennessee. They still have the rock line streams. So as you go from west to east, it just gets more, it gets higher in topography. The geomorphology of the streams change, the topography changes, the climate changes. It rains harder in West Tennessee than it does in Middle and East Tennessee. Here we go. Tennessee, I've done an analysis on this, is is by far the strictest when it comes to environmental regulation. If you look at Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, all these other states, typically they're regulated by the Army Corps of Engineers. Tennessee is unique in that it has its own state jurisdiction. So all the political footballs that we've seen with the wetlands the past couple of years doesn't apply to Tennessee because we have our own jurisdiction. A lot of times you'll hear this term blue line stream. You can take that vernacular and you can throw it out the door in Tennessee because it doesn't matter. Tennessee, it doesn't matter when it comes to the core, but it really doesn't matter under state jurisdiction and state regulation. Um, so we quantify streams. And a stream is a stream is a stream. You have this long sheet that you fill out. What does the bank look like? Has it got water? Is it connected to groundwater? Is there a crayfish in there? Are there frogs? Is there this bug? What's the sinuosity? I mean, all these different things, and you score it out. And if it's 19 or above, it is a stream. The same rules that apply to a stream in East Tennessee apply to a ditch in West Tennessee, even though they are completely different.
Oh
There are no
wow.
traps in West Tennessee. They erode like you wouldn't believe in West Tennessee. The streams in East Tennessee are rockline. We get our drinking water from a deep aquifer called the Sands Aquifer. They get their drinking water from reservoirs. It's completely different. Different. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Time would fail us to talk about the differences, but the same rules apply from people who don't necessarily understand what it's like in West Tennessee. The rules come from Middle and East Tennessee.
Mm, wow.
So it's and then if you go over a certain limit, an arbitrary limit of stream, then you get mitigation. You get penalized for impacting it, and you have to mitigate for it. And those mitigation fees are $4,000 a foot over a certain level.
Wow.
So the best thing that we could do in West Tennessee would be to line these ditches with rock or other different types of things. There's other different products that I like to use that allow the trees and the vegetation to grow. But I can only do so much. I'm handcuffed.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
I had certain jobs that I could talk about that we could go into where the public was at risk. And my job as an engineer, when I took an oath, it was to protect the safety, health, and welfare of the public. I'm not out to destroy the environment, but if I have to choose between a bug and a human, I'm picking the human. I'm picking your family. I'm picking someone else's family. And that's where a lot of the conflict comes. Like when you get in the way of that,
Wow.
protecting humans, that's when we challenge. You know,
Man, oh man, that is a good example of, and I'm sure it's just not Tennessee. I'm sure it's other states with the similar issues. I would assume. I haven't looked it up, but I'm just assuming that it's kind of a one size fits all kind of approach to politics where it has to be this way, which is wild, like you said, and it impacts everybody's bottom lines and budgets and threats to fines and things like that if you don't do it a certain way. But like you said, we're protecting a bug versus maybe protecting people, which is wild based on the priorities of life.
yeah, and it's based on the lines of everyone has the right to clean water. I'm all about that. I'm all
Yeah.
about everyone having the right to clean water to go to drink, to fish, to boat. But the things that we're doing, lining a eroding bank from 200 feet versus 400 feet, I just affected the clean water. I don't think so. And I have to pay somebody $4,000 a foot. Doesn't make no sense. And here's another thing. Here's another thing. We blame it on development. Okay,
Mm,
it's the developer's fault for the eroding streams. I'm about to get in big trouble here. Um, there's, and I did this. I did a check not too long ago. There's approximately 86,000 acres of disturbance when it comes to development open at a time in Tennessee. That's an approximation. It's 30 million acres of farmland
mm,
in West Tennessee. Now, typically a subdivision or a site is not going to go over 50 acres. Okay.
right.
If you go over 50 acres in Tennessee, there's extra rules that apply, and no one wants to do that. So they'll open up to 50 acres at one time. They're not necessarily adjacent to streams. But a farmer, and I love farmers. My family, my grandfather was a farmer. My cousin's still a farm. I'm all about it. I went to Mississippi State. I'm all about ag, all about it. But
Yeah.
don't necessarily point the finger at developers and blame them when a farmer's right next to a ditch and he opens up 300 acres of disturbed area right next to a ditch in one day. And then we round up these fields. There's no vegetation. I go look at these fields. When the rain hits it, it opens up this big old ditch and it goes right down to the other ditch. And we blame it on development and make the developer pay. But
Mm,
sometimes developers don't have as many lobbyists as farmers. So,
yeah. Wow. That's a good examples, man. of what really happens out there. I truly appreciate your honesty and your passion and just you in general, man. It was a pleasure just meeting you so far and knowing you and getting to talk more about this because I have a feeling this isn't our only time. Just so
I'm,
you know, I think that I think that there's a revolution happening. I think with tech and everything that's happening in the world today, I think we are starting to see that these traditional ways of doing things, especially when it comes to construction and engineering, are going to change quickly in the next few years. And we're pushing for a change. We all want to see change. We all want to see things get done the right way and stop wasting time and resources on things that really aren't as important as a person's life. Let's put it that way. So
you nailed
yeah.
it. You nailed it.
So but anyway, man, yeah. Is there any way that people can get a hold of you? What would be the best way?
I have a LinkedIn. That would probably be best for this application. You can
This
find me there.
application. I love
You
it.
can find me there. I'm not gonna get my cell phone number out just yet, but at
No, no, don't do your phone number, man.
developer in West Tennessee that needs something done, oh, you can find us. We'll be more than
Well,
willing
we'll
to.
get you out there, my man. We'll definitely get this posted and see what kind of interest we can get, and pray that it all works out for you and you get some business out of it. That'd be great. Some connections. So
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely, absolutely.
well, all right, my man. Well, thank you for joining me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you.